Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
G'day and welcome to the Inside Fantasy Sports Podcast. I am your host today, Skiddy IFS, where you can find me on Twitter, and I'm joined by my main man, Live My Fantasy. Malley, how are you, brother?
Doing fantastically, mate. Public holiday, couldn't be happier. And we're here having a look at some tier lists. I was just thinking before, like, what's the purpose of this? And I was kind of throwing that idea around in my head. And I think really this is how we should look at guys, as opposed to having a set draft list or average draft positions, because this clumps guys together with value. So instead of going, I must take Drew Holiday before I take Chris Paul because that's the way my order goes, it's getting to that point and going, all right, all of my this chunk guys, this tier guys, they're all gone off the board. So let me roll down and look at who I've got next. And you can go, all right, time for me to get a defensive guy. Time for me to pick up Drew Holiday. Time for me to get a guy really struggling with assists. Time for me to get Chris Paul. So I think as a fantasy community, we probably should start trending more in this direction.
Yeah. Could not agree more with you, mate. I think a lot of people do that. They go, okay, I had this person who had this person, and I need to take him. That's the way it goes. No. If we clump them into a certain group, then you can take your pick from that type of person to take which categories you want to take. Like, we're not talking, when we're talking points league, yeah, we'll just take the best player that we can. But when we're talking in categories, I think we can be all right to clump it. I think we've got to start it off, Malley, with saying congratulations to all the Lakers fans because it's LeBron and Bronny's first game together. Hey, everyone's favorite. Who gives a shit? Bronny's got a good old 1 rebound, 3 turnovers at halftime. So that's great to see. But we love to say that, Malley. But yes, as you said, we are talking tiers list today. And we're talking point guard to start off with. This will be a series where we'll talk about every single position as well, where we can really find out where the best players that we can pick in that around that order is and be able to make the most of our drafts. Because some drafts are pretty close to getting underway, Malley. Have you started any drafts yet?
Mate, I've done my just friends and family league. We got that out of the way nice and early because I have trouble waiting. I mean, I would have done it 6 weeks ago if people wouldn't have slapped me around for it. And the Josh Lloyd's Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, we're doing the slow draft that, which is like grinding my teeth down because people are asleep all over the world or have better things to do than watch fantasy. And we've kind of put this list together of guys. The positioning is always difficult. Because every site has a different interpretation of where guys are going to play. I've used my good common sense from where I've seen them play their minutes. So if you see a guy missing off this point guard list, there's a good chance they're in the shooting guard tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going off of when I had set mine through, I was pretty much going off of like what ESPN had them ranked, even though they're so off sometimes, but who cares? At least it's able to formulate all of them, what they're pitch it first. But let's get stuck into it. And I think it's no surprise that we start off with S tier, and that is Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Do you have any worries here, Malley? They're going around 3, 4, pretty much every single draft, and you can interchange them however you like.
Absolutely not. I think you're stoked either way. It really just depends. They do things slightly differently. They're both big-time scorers. One's obviously a better free throw percentage guy than the other. I'd say that Luka is probably more dominant on his team rather than Shai. Sometimes Shai can take a backseat, but he's always obviously in the play. Both teams have got better this year. I'd say that OKC have got better around Shai, and maybe when it comes to him getting more assists, that's great because he's got better bodies around him who are going to put the ball in. But he's also got guys around him who are going to be hungry for their own shot. So I'd say it's a little bit of give and take there. Luka, realistically, he's probably got an extra mouth to feed in Clay, but nothing to get too excited about. Clear S tier, boys.
Yep. I don't think Clay's going to get too much into Luca's time either. And we saw the main thing that I always go back to with Luca, and everyone go, oh, it's the free throw percentage. It's the free throw percentage. In that last 2 months of the year last year, when they brought over Gafford and PJ Washington, he actually upped his free throw percentage, and his assists went up and his rebounds went up, which is extremely good for Luca as well. I feel like that's something that you can just really go for. And it's not like his free throw is detrimental as it was the year prior to that. So, yep, I think they're both S tier.
Maybe thinking about your S tier guys is kind of like if they go from your team, everything crumbles around you. Like if I pick up let's say I pick up my first pickup in my 20-man league, I think was it wasn't Cade. Who was it? Let's say you pick up Edwards. If you lose Edwards, I think you can still, that's obviously a huge blow, but you're going to recover, and you can recover, and you can replace some of those things. If you lose Doncic, if you lose Shea, you're kind of up the creek. Yeah.
Yeah, could not agree more. And I'll tell you, I reckon this bloke is so close, because we go to A tiers now. I could actually very much hear a discussion where you could say Tyrese Halliburton is in S tier. It's bloody close, because those assists that he can generate are so goddamn valuable. He doesn't hurt you in any categories either. It's just that he's not that, 28-point scorer like we see from these other guys, where you kind of that's the flashy thing. But the assists that he can generate, I reckon he's close to S tier, but I'm happy having him in A, along with Trae Young. Obviously, great assist, but hurt you in turnovers and field goal percentage and no blocks, obviously. We have LaMelo Ball up there. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Steph Curry, James Harden. Jalen Brunson is the iffy one for both of us. He's on the verge. We could go A, B. What do you like and what don't you like about the A tier boys here?
Yeah, you're right. There almost needs to be an A+ tier where we put Tyrese in, because he's not quite a Luka and Shea, but he's more than a Trae, LaMelo, Steph, Harden type character. He's a funny guy, because I always forget that he's a really good 3-point shooter. He puts 3 of those in a game. His defensive numbers are always there. He's an insane assist guy. He is. We talk a lot about Wemby winning you the blocks category by himself. Tyrese gets pretty close to being able to dominate assists by himself, which rolls over to Trae, obviously another huge assist guy. We're banking on him having a bounce back season. Bit of injury for him last year, and obviously DeJounte isn't in town, so he's back to being the one and only point guard. So I think he definitely earns a spot in the A tier. Did you get to see Melo play today?
He actually looked bloody nice to start off with, and the Hornets offense just looks so much better with LaMelo Ball out there.
Yeah. It's great to have someone in the driver's seat who knows what they're doing. He looks unreal.
Bridges doing his bullshit every single game. My God, I think we actually got someone to give it out to.
100%. And looking at this group here, we've tiered them together, so we think that they have similar-ish value. I think if you could be assured that LaMelo was going to be able to stay healthy, I think he could, not this year, but I think in the future he could possibly be S tier. He scores, his percentages, well, at least his free throws aren't too bad. He gets steals
big time.
Plenty, gets a few rebounds, gets plenty of assists. So he's another guy that he could probably edge into the A+ tier, but we're going to try and keep it simple with nice, clean tiers, where I don't think Trae could. Trae's a bit more of a one-trick pony, score, assists, repeat.
Free throw percentage, threes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. But and as we said, with Steph, we know what we're getting with Steph. We're just, not 100% sure about it. And then, the one that we get a little bit iffy on is that Jalen Brunson, James Harden, obviously. We reckon the assist can skyrocket. We saw it in the preseason game today. Him and Zubac. Oh, my God. That is Harden, Capella, Houston Rockets type setup, because that is just lobs, drive, lobs, ease.
Yep. And I think they've done a lot of work together, so hopefully that's starting to pay off now. They're seeing they kind of kept that on the back burner last year. It was almost like they saw this coming and they were like, let's just do our own little thing off in the corner when no one's looking, because we're one superstar away if we lose Kawhi, if we lose Paul George, from getting our time to shine. And once Paul George vacated, they must have been licking their chops going, all right, let's just run this, because James Harden is the only distributor on that team. And I don't know if he's got bigger, or maybe it was just because he was blistering who they played the other day. Can't even remember now.
Jeez, it was yesterday. I'm so focused on today's games that I've forgotten who the hell.
Like
they won by a point. They won by a bloody point. Who did they beat? If it lets me goddamn watch, which I can't. Yeah, carry on.
He just was bodying people up underneath. Like, he was just a man possessed. Like, he looked stronger. Like, he was putting his hip in. He was just he was like back to the rim, and he was just plonking it in. And he was also moving. He was cutting so nicely. I know that we're not doing the centers category at the moment, but who was it?
It was the Warriors. That's right, because Lindy Waters hit the 3 to win it, and I'm sitting there going, "Wait a minute, Lindy Waters doesn't play for OKC anymore. Who the hell does he play?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right, Warriors." So he was only versing Trace Jackson Davis, but still.
Yes, and then we saw the liabilities there. Anyway, that's for another show. But same with the guy who apparently played against in Steph Curry. They are two guys who were potential moments away from seeing this might be their last crack of A tier. Harden probably wouldn't have been in it this year had Kawhi not been Kawhi and Paul George leaving, because he definitely wasn't A tier last year. He was probably more that B tier, but he's graduated. He's come back and he's going to get to do some Houston Rockets type stuff where he's the guy and he just makes people around him better.
Yep, I 100% agree there, mate. And I reckon the assist can go out the wazoo. So we're looking at Tyrese, we're looking at Trey, and we're looking at Harden for these massive assist ones. If you don't obviously get Luka Doncic. We look at B tier. And as we said, we have Jalen Brunson in A, but I reckon he's probably about A minus, B plus kind of thing. He's a bit better than A, because you could probably put him the same as Dame Lillard, where we see him in B. I like the Cat Brunson combo. I reckon that's going to look really, really nice in New York, and I reckon he opens it up more for Brunson. But yeah, so I'd have probably him and Lillard and probably even Fred in that kind of iffy one, but we're going to put him into B tiers here. Just because of aging wise, I'd say for Dame, Freddie VanVleet, he's not a sexy type of fantasy player, but my God, if you look at the defensive stats that he can generate, I could definitely see a point where we could get him close to A. It's just that there is a shitload of depth on that Houston Rockets team, which makes it hard. De'Aaron Fox could be A, but I think DeMar takes a little bit away from him, but he can still be a great source of fantasy stats. Cade Cunningham on the rise. Jamal Murray, we know what we're going to get from him. Hopefully he can lean more to that playoffs type Jamal Murray. Tyrese Maxey, I think you're with me on this. I'm going to say it though. Maxey, I think, takes a hit with Paul George. Otherwise, he could definitely be A. We saw him A last year. And then DeJounte Murray is a guy that I think can get to A tier as well with the amount of steals that he can generate. Good shots. What are you looking at here? Because there's a lot of value in these middling rounds for point guards.
Right, and B tier is always going to be, generally speaking, is a chunkier tier than the A tier. Just like these guys, again, like the guys above them, they're probably not a lot of work they need to do just to pip up. You're right. There's some B plus type guys here.
Yeah.
Little looked nice out there today. He came out explosive and he kind of faded a little bit into that second quarter, but much better than what we saw this time last year, where he'd had all of his bits and bobs to deal with in his life. And
moving from Portland, down to Milwaukee, hard, obviously. Also, too, we're not going to see the Detroit Pistons beat the bloody Milwaukee Bucks by 33 anytime soon again. Far out.
No, and the Detroit played their full lineup basically for the whole game, whereas Milwaukee were like, "This is a preseason game. See you later." But they wanted to get off of their side of not losing. But I mean, De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Maxey are two guys who are both going to take hits with players incoming this year, with superstars coming in. I don't wish anything against Embiid. But that would probably be the best situation for Tyrese if Embiid goes down, or on those nights that Embiid sits, and then he can just play with Paul George and kind of and maybe see some growth. But don't agree.
You think? No, I don't, because that the Tyrese and Embiid combination works so well because Tyrese is so quick, and then Embiid's used there as like a big ass screener, obviously to distort the defenders. When you substitute that with Andre Drummond, I mean, maybe, but Andre Drummond can't do anything outside of a foot from the ring. So, maybe that does. I think he does need Paul George to go out more to be able to really get back to what he had last year. But we've seen him do it with Harden, so maybe Maxey just fills his spot, I guess.
Yeah, what I'm thinking with Tyrese too is if he can drive the lane and, because he's hyper athletic and he just gets in around the rim. If he knows that he's got Paul George out there and the defense knows that they got Paul George out there worried about hitting threes, if he can get hot, I think that'd be great for Tyrese as well.
Yeah,
it's either going to lead to him scoring more or at least lead to him putting some doubt in the defender's mind and maybe even getting some more assists because as a point guard, he's obviously not a high assist guy. And that's probably when you look at these guys, they've all got a bit of a deficiency. Dame's is age, and maybe he's on a better team than he has been for most of his career. Fox is potentially moving down a peg or at least having to share the second man job now with DeRozan. Cade is young on a shite team and they're trying to figure it out. There's a lot of new pieces around there. He looked great today when Ivy wasn't out there or when Ivy was just being, submissive to him.
Yeah.
Jamal, there's too many Jamal Murrays. There's like broken Jamal, there's healthy Jamal, there's Olympic Jamal, there's playoff Jamal, and there's so much of a range in those Jamals that he's scary. But he kind of, if you take the best Jamal and the worst Jamal and find the mid, that's a B tier Jamal. And that's why we plonked him there. Fred VanVleet, everybody hates him, but I think B's a tier that is suitable for him. What do you reckon about FEV?
Mate, I still think that he can go higher. Freddie completely depends on who you take with your first pick or first two picks, and then you can go off of that. There's no point in taking Fred if you're taking an offensive minded player. Like if you take Tyrese Halliburton in the first round, Freddie doesn't really work well with Tyrese Halliburton. But if you take him with Wemby or Shea or Anthony Davis, brilliant. That is a fantastic pairing, Fred VanVleet. So I think that he can go to A tier probably if he's with the right person in the right team. But if you're not, then you are looking more B as a ceiling type.
I've got Fred VanVleet I'm making a punt points team in this slow draft. So I've got Harden, I've got him, and I've got Barnes as my first three picks. So I think I've maximized all of their value there, maybe that's what you mean. So in that team, 100%. He's an A-tier guy. But with his deficiencies, being not a big scorer, he may end up, not being a B-tier guy for other teams. I like that. That's a good notion you've come up with there. Jalen Brunson, we're iffy on him, but the boss said put him up, so we put him up.
We can run it. Hey, we can run it. That's all right, Malley. But we move on to our C guys here. And look, again, it's C guys where we can say, hey, look, there is genuinely a possibility that these guys could move up to B. Even one of them. Tell you what, Ja Morant, he could be right up there this season if he comes back well and healthy after the shoulder injury, obviously. But, everyone's so excited for Ja and taking him super early. I understand it because of the high scoring that he is able to entail. But remember, he hasn't been that great of a a category league player. He's been good points league, but category not great. We have Quickly, who we think is going to be popping off. A lot of people see a high rise for Quickly this season. Darius Garland, hopefully he can get back from the year that he had prior. 2023-24 was pretty disappointing. A lot of injuries, a lot of little ones that took a lot to be able to recover from. But the year before that, he was top 40. So hopefully we see a return for Garland with the assists as well. And D'Angelo Russell is a weird one to me. Putting him in C, I can see where he can step up there. But there's also times where he just sits back and does fuck all because AD and LeBron just take over.
Yeah, and these two preseason games that the Lakers have played, it's kind of been Reeves as the true point guard. He's been the one dishing. He's been the one opening things up. He's been doing some crazy passes. and D'Angelo is probably more suited to like
More of
the
a
shooting
scorer.
guard position.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what he does. But
Mhm.
I mean, he fits the mold just by looks and potential skill set to be in this
Yeah.
tier, be in a point guard's
Yeah.
position. Then you're right. Emmanuel Quickly, I think he's another one that this is his average. He could become a
Yeah.
B guy, but he could
Oh,
slip
yeah.
down to a D guy.
Mhm.
We haven't seen enough of them all together in Toronto. Like we've had to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit and go, I think this will be great
Yeah.
if we get a year where he and Barnes and RJ get to play together. I
Mhm.
would have loved to seen them all out there today, but we had to wait. It was nice to see
Still going.
Barnes and Quickly sharing laughs and having a good time on the bench. So at least they
Yeah.
seem to like each other, which is always
That's a
helpful.
big plus. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. There's no category. There's not a 10 cat thing where like how nice are your players to each other. But if there was, we might score some points there. Garland,
Mhm.
I mean, all I want to say about him is I think last season was a blip, and that we're going to get
Agreed.
back to where he was.
Mhm.
Everyone will be upset that we put him on C tier. If we want to make people sad, that's where to put him.
Yep. We're not here to bloody make friends, though. We're trying to tell you how to win your bloody category leagues, and that's how you want to do it. But, I mean, there is a very real possibility that Jar could be way higher than this, so that's fine. Did you have any other guys that you liked in C tier as well? Because I know that there may have been a couple. We just didn't get the graphic for them. But who else you got in that C tier? Oh, wait, or did we have them in D? We had them in D. Sorry, I'll shut up. We'll get on
It's
to
a
D.
D to come. Yeah.
Yep, we'll go to D now. But, yes, there is a very real chance. No problem with having Jar around where his ADP is, which is around about 45, 50. It's okay because you're not finding those high points. He is going to get you those 26 points per game. And that is valuable at that stage of the draft. We go to D. As we said, a couple of guys that we couldn't get on. We forgot to get on the graphics, but Mally will run through those because he likes them around that 100 range. Scary Terry Rozier, like it. Starting point guard in Miami, fine. Conley, I'm a little on, but he does be a good generator of assists, doesn't really hurt you, and he can get some steals as well. Keontae George, we did see him start for Utah, which is nice there. Clarkson off the bench, Sexton also the other starter. Kobe White's an iffy one for me, though, Mally. I think he's been starting to bump down a little bit just because of this news about what's going to happen with Josh Giddey, Io DeSumo, and now Lonzo Ball as well. So are you still comfortable with having Kobe White around the D range, or would you bump him down a little? Are you still okay with it?
I've seen him go higher than that, which worries me.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people who would consider him a C tier guy. And,
Mm-hmm.
maybe their justification is we've got DeMar going, and then we've got disgruntled Levine coming in inverted commas, as in like
Yep.
playing a season with this new version of Kobe White. I don't know. I have my reservations about him. He was so up and down last season. I like my guys consistent.
Yep.
That's the reason I hold on to him. I don't like a great week and then a shite week and then a great week. Like that's just too much for me to deal with. I like to try and make predictions, and I really use my waiver wire pickups, and I use I use my 4 or 5 pickups that I'm allowed depending on the league each week. So I want a guy who's going to play the same kind of basketball each week. Otherwise, I might as well just pick up a guy who I know is going to have a hot week or a hot day or whatever, and keep that spot a bit more flexible. I think other guys that could be in this tier too: Drew Holiday, Chris Paul, Jalen
Yep.
Suggs. I mean,
Yep.
Suggs and Drew are probably like passing ships in the night. Like Drew's getting older and he's tired, and then Suggs is young and hungry, even though he hasn't got a young man's haircut. Poor bloke just needs to shave it off. Like it's atrocious.
Oh, no. Yeah, get rid of that.
Yeah.
Come on, Suggsy.
And so like, same kind of profile. They are defensive point guards. They get a few assists. They get some steals. They get some blocks. Drew's had a great career, but is probably on the tail end of that now because I think he's 34 or 5 or something. He's not a young guy. He's also had a huge off season with their playoff run. He was an Olympian, wasn't he? Was he Olympian?
I think so, yeah. I think so. No.
I can't remember now. Every bloody person on the Celtics basically was.
Except for Brown.
Anyway, either way, I need to go back and look at my stats, but he's either way. He's had a long postseason. And then we've got Chris Paul, who last year wouldn't have been in the D tier, but he's having a last minute little renaissance here, where he's coming back.
Yep.
He's going to get plenty of assists. They're just going to let him hold the ball until someone's open. He's an old man, though. Yeah. So we'll see how the body goes. Chuck us back to that list. There was someone else on there that I was a little bit dubious of.
We got Conte, George, Scary Terry, or Mike Conley.
I feel like Terry Rozier might be the only one you and I see differently, because I know from what you've just said there that he's someone who obviously, who kind of you see value in. I worry about him a lot. Like, I think he's got the Charlotte Hornets effect, where you're like, oh, dude's so good. And then once you pick him out of that context and put him in like with a decent team, you're like, oh, dude, what's this guy doing? Like, if they have Bam playing healthy, if they have, God forbid, Hero playing more than whatever he plays, 40 games a season. If Butler decides that he's, not going to get hurt and come up with weird injuries throughout the season, I think that's a big problem for Terry Rozier. I just don't think there's enough for him to do on that team, and he's going to be in that weird, like, fourth option kind of doing nothing at all kind of position. And he'll do well when they have guys injured, but that's why I pick up guys off the waiver. And I'm not going to be that drastic and say that's where he's supposed to be, because we have him higher than that tier. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not stoked about it.
So I am. I feel like he's probably he doesn't give a lot in the way of defense wise, but I feel like he's the guy that you can just give the ball to and he can go be a bucket. We saw him not only on the Hornets do it, but we saw it when he was at the Celtics. He did that as well. I feel like he could be at times where he's the number one scorer. Like, Jimmy's not going to do it all the time. We saw him defer a lot last year as well to Tyler Hero, Homie Huckers, all of his teammates. That's what Jimmy does. He's such a good, unselfish player and brings them in as a team. I think there's a points in time where Scary Terry's going to have to be like, hey, just give me the ball. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and score it. And last year, when he was in Miami as well, he was 65th per game. Fine. That is fine by me. If I get him around, the 90 mark, I'm happy. I am more than happy having him there. I feel like that's all right. The only other one that I will just prefacate as well, Malley, when we do put Drew Holiday in the D tier, yes, there is a very real chance that Drew Holiday could be an S tier because of how good he is defensively. He doesn't really hurt you in any category. It's more or less, yes, he's had a massive long off season. He's older. You can see the Celtics are more comfortable with putting Peyton Pritchard out there now as well. I think Drew's just going to have a lot more rest. He's still going to be great when he plays. It's just not, this explosion that we see from Drew.
Boston kind of like threw us a curly one by having him in white, because I almost feel like they swapped shoes or something, because it's almost like the true Drew Holiday's playing inside the body of Derek White, and Derek White is inside Drew's body. Like they had a Spooky Friday or whatever that stupid movie is, where they change Scary Fridays or Freaky Friday. That makes more sense. Bit of alliteration. Where like they've just done a body swap, because I don't think many people thought, oh, this is the huge leap that we're going to see from Derek White, but we probably also didn't see the decline coming this quickly for Drew. But yes, he's a good defensive piece. He's on a great team, so.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, which we like to see. Okay, but people that can hurt, Malley, let's go to our E. And this is, there can be some guys that can do well and some guys that can really stuff us here, because E-tier point guards, Tyus Jones, we know he can be better. He's a good source of assist, has some of the best assist-to-turnover ratio. Just depends how much he's going to get in Phoenix. Starting point guard today against the Lakers, which is what we want to see. Schroeder, iffy. Ben Simmons, we know iffy. Did you see the free throw golf competition that the Nets were holding, and Ben Simmons was well down the list in the positives?
I didn't see that, but it's I could imagine it in my mind's eye.
I believe the winner was Dorian Finney-Smith, who was on like minus 27, and Ben Simmons was plus 10. And I'm like, ooh, shit. Yikes. It has not gotten better. Right. But that's all right. Scoot Henderson, fried out of his mind, loves his food. He'll be in here. I feel like he can be a good source of assists. It just depends what's going to happen, with the whole minute split with Simons and Sharp and everything there. I still feel like they're going to give it to Scoot. He's going to obviously hurt you in defensive stats. And then we've got DeAnthony Melton, who was the starter in Golden State, which is something we love to see. We know he can be a very, very good fantasy player. And then Andrew Nemhart, starter in Indiana, depends. It could be a minute share with Benedict Mathurin. It's an iffy one there. But who's the guy that mainly jumps out to you here as being your last round flyer? Let's say if you had like your last pick, second last pick, which is the guy you look for here for point guards?
Well, I didn't think a lot, to be fair, about Tyus Jones until I started watching him today's game. And he was still dishing out and he was still getting a couple of shots out there. It's unfortunate that he's on a team where near everyone, including the centerpiece, can like dish the ball and get assists. So it's not like the Washington days where that was something that he had that nobody else had. But I kind of feel like there were so many times last year that we saw Grayson Allen be like the number one guy on that team, which is wild when you think of the people on it, that he was just the best on the day. And I'm hoping that happens a little bit to Tyus as well, where like there's so much pressure on these other guys defensively, or even just from their own, from what we expect them to do. And Tyus gets to hide a little bit, and then you have these big games where he goes well on scoring. He's still going to get assists, like he's putting it in the hands of people who are known scorers. They're going to be able to relax a little bit, knowing that they don't have to set up every play, leading Booker and KD and Beal to actually do a little bit more off ball and make their cuts and get themselves in position for their shots. I think he's going to the things that are going to affect him from coming to a better team and being a worse player, and then seeing the inverse being like I think that the value is going to stay pretty well the same, or he's going to increase. The other guy, DeAnthony Melton, before last year, was someone that we thought a lot about. Like he's a good scorer. He can get his shots in before last year, and it all just fell away. And I think the injury really affected him last year, and it's nice to see him getting a shot. I don't know whether I'd touch him though, because even as I said on Twitter the other day, Pajemski still looked really good. Hield didn't look good, but Hield is the closest one to Klay Thompson. So, there's obviously going to be a role for him because the team is set up for a Klay Thompson wannabe in Buddy Hield. So let's watch some more preseason games and see what happens. But if we know that he is going to get the starting nod and they're going to play Pajemski as a six-man, which would be great for Pajemski. I honestly think from a fantasy 100%. Point of view and a real-life NBA point of view, that would be awesome for him. Like, he loves assists. He loves rebounds. He'll get a shot when he can. That's what six men do. Like, they're kind of like free agents within their own team, like just doing their own thing until the starters get all back on and then they kind of take their rest. But, I think I actually don't know if that affects, and we'll talk more about him when we do our shooting guards here, because that's where we got pods at the moment. But the only other one, you talking about Ben Simmons before, I feel a bit sorry for the dude in one way, and this will be another unpopular opinion.
Talk to me.
But he, when he was a great player in his early part of his career, everyone kind of just forgave and ignored his downfalls with no three-point shot, the fact that he can't get free throws. But as everything else has kind of fallen off and he's had his injuries and his mental health, that all comes back to light again. And we remember, and it's always like, like we see these things, even his own team, obviously, like setting him up for failure by putting him in a free throw competition and then posting the results. Like, that's yuck behavior.
Keep him accountable. I reckon that's fine. Had the whole team on there. You say, hey, look, you might need to have a little bit of kick up the ass. This is where you're starting from. There's no hiding from it. And you just work at it and get better. There's nothing wrong with having that.
And who thought I must be getting soft at my old age that I'd be trying to defend Ben Simmons on a podcast? But he's another guy. I think we can't expect too much from the guy, but he's too handy not to mention in this flyer range, because again, when my slow draft eventually gets to the point in my punt points build, he's going to be perfect for me. If he can get some steals, get those rebounds, get those assists, field goal percentage is good. Fred VanVleet and Harden will take care of the free throw percentage and at least keep that manageable. So,
Mate.
Yeah.
Look, there is
Anyone that you think?
nothing wrong with going with Ben Simmons in the last round. I've always been saying it as well. I reckon it's an absolute fly because this guy has been top 20 before. Like, he's been that good. It's the back,
Yep.
the body, the mental health, everything that all rolled up into one. If he can bring it all back together, at least to get to, let's say, top 60, massive amount of fantasy work to be able to come in. And then, Mally, we'll go into our last guys here. That is the F tier guys, and these are guys that we can just see a bit of upside for. Maybe you can maybe have a crack at it. We got Steph Castle in San Antonio, Bob Carrington in Washington, Ayo Dosunmu in Chicago, and Trey Jones in San Antonio. I'm going to say right now, I only really like Bob Carrington. I feel like he'll get a bit of time at points, but we've seen now it's Jordan Poole time, baby. It's Poole at the point guard for Washington. I love that. I love to say that. Bob looked okay today. He's obviously going to need a lot of time to be able to learn the game. Same as Steph Castle. I feel like he's going to get a fair amount of it as well. And he could have a bit of time. You being a Spurs man, there's a chance that Steph Castle can get a fair bit of time with Devin Vassell under the injury cloud.
It depends to what they're going to do with Trey Jones, like how much loyalty they have to him and his brand. Like if they just go, you have no future on this team. We're not going to win right now, really. Like if we get in the playoffs, that's a huge season. All we're really doing is helping bring along potentially the greatest basketball player of at least our time in Wembanyama. So yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he might get some chances. Dillingham wasn't on that list, and he played really, really well the other day. And he's ironically, he's kind of in a similar situation. Probably there's less resistance for him. He's playing under an old point guard. So I think with Conley there, Conley and Chris Paul are kind of similar positions age-wise and in their career. So we might get some more showings for these guys. One name we did mention before that I know was missing, because I saw you had Scoot on there, only because Scoot was having in his food picture thing. But George wasn't on there. He's a guy that I think would be a D plus, maybe a C minus type guy. They're obviously running with him full pace this year. No, do we make him a point guard? Don't we? I said on X the other day, it was the first game I saw him play where he looked like a point guard, not a shooting guard trying to be a point guard because they need one. Like they've worked it out, and that's great for Utah. Like Sexton looked like the shooting guard and was doing shooting guard things. Keontae George, in whatever he played, some stupid 12 minutes or something, he got his 5 assists, and they were nice assists too. So he's a guy, probably was a bit remiss of us to leave him off.
Hey, Mally,
you're worried about?
Don't worry, brother. I got you. He's actually been on the D tiers, buddy. So we're good. We are covering our bases there, my boy.
There we go.
Hey, but you got to get that a little bit in there because he did play well the other day, which is absolutely fine by us. But no, mate, I reckon that's about it. Like the F tier guys, I feel like the E tier guys are probably kind of where you cut off with for fantasy at the moment. The F guys are more or less guys that you'd be looking for later, if there's sittings or injuries or stuff like that. They are guys that can return value. Trey Jones is probably the main one there. Just if Chris Paul sits back to backs, you could definitely look at Trey Jones to be a great source of assists. We know that if he's going to be learning off of Chris Paul, you beauty. But you can't learn off of a better point guard to be able to generate your assists. So Trey Jones, we know we can do it. We've seen him be, a high assist guy. Yeah, so I love it. It's just that he needs to expand his range and be able to hit the threes, but if he can do that. But either way, Mally, it's been an absolutely fantastic show, mate. That's our tier list for point guards, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love this. We'll get stuck into the shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers to come. It's going to be fantastic, and this is what you need to be able to do to get into your to be able to get ready for your drafts. And if you really want to smash your drafts, go ahead and buy the big draft day kit. It's mine, Mally's, G's, and Matrix's preferences on all of our players that we think is going to be able to help you into what certain categories you need to be able to win your category leagues. It's an easy as $30, less than a slab. How good's that? You pop that on there, you get ready for your draft days, and you go, oh, who am I going to pick? Oh, no worries in there. And if you have any other questions, just join our Patreon, because you just go straight into the Patreon, links down below, and you can ask any of us any questions that you need. You're stuck at pick 36. Don't worry about it. Just get stuck in there and then ask us, and we'll more than happily be able to sort you out and get you stuck in there. You got anything else to say, Mally?
Besides, like, if it's a slow news day one day, let's do a coaches tier. I'd love to do that.
Oh shit, coaches here, righto. So
Coaches. Yeah.
Popovich up top, and then anything involving Detroit down low. Lovely. All right, Malley. It's been a pleasure, mate. I'll catch up with you soon.
See you, buddy.
All the best.
Hooroo.